Chapter 12. Trial 14. They creep out into the dark, the icy grass crackling beneath their feet, the sky wide and open and full of stars, the moon set. She leads, a candle held out before her in one hand. It casts a shallow pool of light in a ring around them, beyond which swirls the unfounded gloom of night, unbroken, total. She has the feeling nothing else exists, as if they too are the only souls alive, or no. She imagines this is what it feels like to be dead, to be only memory in others' heads. They find their way, feet kicking up the path to the apple orchard. She kneels in the grass beside him. The flame wavers side to side. "Now," she whispers. The boy with black hair extends a folded piece of paper. She sees the words written inside, their edge cast large as the flame nears. She wonders what he's written. He meets her eyes uncertainly. "It's tradition," she says, her voice barely more than breath. There's a magic to the ash prayer her mom taught her, a magic her voice might break. "Like your sakura blossom," she says. "This is how we make a wish." The boy nods and dips the paper. Immediately flames lick upward, dark specks of soot drift on the crisp air. He holds it, and she watches him, the fire in his glassy eyes. He holds it till the flames brush his hand. Then he lets go. The smoldering paper floats downward. He smiles. Then she pulls out her own scrap of parchment, feeling the texture of it between her fingers. She kisses it, then lets the flames take it. She stares at it as it burns, till the flame touches her skin. "For you, Mother." The light remains, searing her retina. She blinked. The light was still in her eyes, blinding light. She caught movement around her, shapes coming into focus, dislodging from the mist. White shapes without shadow, beneath a lidless eye of fire. She floated, vacuous, detached, pieces tethered one to another, less than thought. Words drifted above her, senseless words that left no trace, that slid through her mind without turbulence, trajectory unchanged. A white mask leaned in close, hovering inverted, a white mask and a white cap in between a thin band of skin with two luminous blue eyes. The eyes were socketed into glass, magnified, and the eyes and the mask and the cap orbited. Fingers peeled her eyelids back. Light poured in. She struggled to turn away. She struggled, but her muscles were sand and her bones were dust. Metal held her down, chains biting into the tender flesh of her ankles, of her wrists, chains slithering along her body, and a strap of leather against her forehead. A gag filled her mouth. "Vitals have stabilized," the mask said. Other masks dangled on threads above her head, one attached to a white apron, attached to an arm, attached to a hand, attached to a clipboard. A pen chiseled into the granite surface, and the sound chiseled into her ears. "That makes 13 times, the mask said, billowing outward with the expulsion of breath. "Remarkable. Truly remarkable." Gradually the room condensed around her. White tile, white walls, white figures bound up in white scrubs and white aprons. She lay on her back on a metal gurney. Overhead there hung a ring studded with gas lanterns, shaped so that the light fell straight down, drenching her. A spindly metal table to her right bore a host of surgical instruments, many blood-stained, metal and blood glistening in the ceaseless light. "Does the cause of death matter?" A new voice asked from the edge of the room, somewhere beyond the limit of her vision. She tried to turn towards it. Fingers crawled up her neck, bit into her jaw, twisted hard so that she stared directly up into the light. Green lines flickered across the glass of her pupils. The fingers felt damp, sticky. "Not in the trials we've conducted so far. Asphyxiation, exsanguination, tachycardia. It doesn't appear to matter. Its vitals cease for some minutes, but then return. And we needn't kill it each time either. A wound will heal whether it perishes or not. A hand will regrow. I say regrow because we lack the nomenclature to describe what happens. It's as if a new limb forms out of thin air." The room flickered. Time lapsed from the track, the gears turning on without traction, then catching and spinning fast. Returning, she heard a second voice ask, "Does she seem dangerous?" "Dangerous? No, it doesn't seem dangerous, nor entirely alive for that matter. It will respond to stimuli, pull away if burned, if cut. But since arriving it has shown no signs of consciousness, of sentience. The body lives on, but the mind has surely fled." Naturally, we are still taking precautions. The manacles, the sedative, drip. Honestly, I think we needn't. Time unlaced. The room darkened and then brightened. The mask was still speaking when she returned. But better than we could have hoped. Still, we have so much work to do. So much data to collect. What happens when the tissue is placed in a vacuum, or deprived of nourishment, when the head is removed, when... Continue your work in Sotsu, the second voice said. I'll prepare a transport to take her to the academy. Just remember not to neglect your other responsibilities. Time grows short. Of course. Now, once more, I want to see it for myself. Her eyes swiveled in their sockets, widening. The scalpel appeared in a white glove poised over her eye. For the first time she saw the glove, covered in red, shining blood. Begin recording. The pen bit into the clipboard. Trial 14. Scalpel was inserted anteriorly through the subject's orbital cavity. The blade lowered towards her eye. She tried to scream. Her father sits at his desk. Through the window, ribbons of moonlight cascade, falling in multitudinous prisms across books and papers heaped. Otherwise the room is dark, the hearth empty. His eyes appear closed, but as she pushes the door open, he stirs. He says her name. She approaches, a plate clasped between her hands. Dinner. You should eat, she says, holding it out to him. You can leave it, he says. She sets the plate on the edge of the desk. Let me make you a fire, she says, pulling a box of matches from her pocket. No, that's all right. He stands and takes her hand, and I thought I was supposed to be the parent. He smiles at her, but like the hearth, the smile is devoid of any warmth. A glint of gold catches her eye. She pulls away and moves to the desk and picks the thing up, holding it as tenderly as if it were an injured bird. Mother's locket, she says. Yes. He takes it from her and snaps it closed and stows it in his breast pocket. She sifts through a stack of papers, the pages heavy with red ink, dense with swirling runes. What are you working on? She asks, more to fill the space than to satisfy any curiosity. He waves a hand non-committally. Nothing terribly interesting, I'm afraid. Oh. The silence expands between them, pressing them to opposite sides of the room. He checks his watch. Was that all? He asks. She nods. Yes, that was all. He leads her out of the room and closes the door behind her. A short way down the hall she stops and slams her fist into the wall, the force tearing the skin across her knuckles. She stares at the blood as it begins to seep out, drop by drop, such a vivid scarlet. She's dead, she wants to scream. I'm not.